I've picked 10 pieces I think could be gateway drugs for you into contemporary classical music. I'm assuming you're into having new musical experiences, but maybe know next to nothing about contemporary classical music, or even classical music in general. These pieces were all written within the last 100 years, and each has a unique and radical sound world all of its own. Be prepared to be shocked and surprised, there's some pretty big characters in here, and the list moves roughly from the sublime to the ridiculous. First up is John Luther Adams's Become Ocean, a piece which New Yorker writer Alex Ross called the loveliest apocalypse in human history. Adams moved to Alaska in 1978, and his love of nature and concern for the environment have been reflected in his work ever since. Like the sea, the music is incredibly vast and beautiful, but with an undercurrent of threat always there. I think it's one of the most original works of the 21st century. This is Osvaldo Golijov's The Dreams and Prayers of Isaac the Blind. Golijov is an emblem of modern-day multiculturalism. From Romanian Jewish background, but born into a Catholic enclave within Argentina, and now living in the US. But this is probably Golijov's most Jewish work, written for the great klezmer clarinetist Giora Feidman, but taken up here by another klezmer great, David Krakauer, who brings an unbelievable intensity as a performer, which is tailor-made to this piece. It's quite ridiculous that within the tiny world of contemporary classical music there are actually two John Adamses. Apart from John Luther Adams, there is also the one just known as John Adams. He has a lot of great pieces, but one of my favourites is a very early and little known one with a very unmemorable title, Simple Tones in Common Tones in Common Simple Time Tone. To me it's an American landscape piece, perhaps seen from a plane, gradually changing, spectacular, beautiful. Another very American composer now, Steve Reich, and I can't decide between two pieces, both of which always blow people away when they hear them for the first time. Different Trains turns the recorded voices of people talking about train journeys during the war into their constituent melodies, which is both incredibly evocative and very, very catchy.
From Chicago to New York, from Chicago, to New York.
Music for 18 Musicians, though, is the go-to piece for all Reich lovers. Everything you need in Reich is there, from the marimbas to the gradually shifting accents, totally unique. Stravinsky's Les Noces really is a work like no other, scored for an insane combination of 4 pianos, 4 percussionists, choir and soloists. It's a weird amalgam of Russian folk wedding music with mechanistic percussive drive. It's totally mad, but it just oozes with life. Speaking of which, Messiaen's Turangalila Symphony is exactly the same. Like Prince and many other geniuses, Messiaen's vision mixed sex and religion in a sort of spiritual ecstasy. Turangalila is a gigantic orchestral work in 10 movements lasting well over an hour, with the swooping sci-fi sound of the Onde Martenot, crashing piano, giant canyons of sound, and lush, scrumptious love tunes. Totally over the top, totally fabulous. Thomas Adès' music is certainly challenging at times, but if you listen hard you can detect a unique compositional voice and a real genius at handling the complex textures of the orchestra. If you're looking for a way into his music, start with the third movement of his orchestral piece Asyla, cheekily entitled Extasio, which is a slightly deranged take on club culture. Kevin Volans' White Man Sleeps was made famous by the version of the piece he wrote for the Kronos Quartet, but the original was far more radical, scored for 2 harpsichords, viola da gamba and percussion, and tuned to the scales used by Mbira musicians in Zimbabwe. This is one of those pieces that, when you hear it for the first time, you'll say, "What the hell was that?" But it's totally joyous and fun, I just love it. If anyone followed their path as a composer oblivious to what it would do to their career, it was Conlon Nancarrow, who holed himself up in his garage in Mexico and wrote pieces exclusively for player pianos, allowing him to write ridiculously complex and insanely fast pieces that no human could dream of performing. Composer György Ligeti first brought Nancarrow's music to the attention of the composing world in the 1980s. It was like a thunderbolt of revelation. Speaking of Ligeti, there are so many pieces of his that could be included on this list, particularly the ones that were famously included in the film 2001 A Space Odyssey. But I'm going for one of his last and strangest pieces, Síppal dobbal nádihegedüvel. This has a lot in common with Les Noces, it has 4 percussionists, and it's like an imaginary folk culture from the strangest place you've ever been to. So those are my choices. What do you think? Do you have any other suggestions? Please let us know in the comments. And please also like and subscribe.
Ah